The Internal Revenue Service of the USA finally delivered an alternative format request to low vision and blind people. Now, this is like pretty awesome, but it's also like they haven't done this before. Like Braille wasn't an option. Like I need to look into it and see what's up with that, but does anybody know? I got one, and I'm not a Braille reader, only 10%. I think that might be an old stat, but very few people who are legally blind know Braille, and that's a problem, because it's really, I think it's interesting that it's not seen as a language like sign language is. It's seen as a means to read, but I just think there needs to be a change in the movement of the perception of Braille, because while technology can help us and we can have screen readers and we can have things like that, people who are losing vision need to have access to the sensory tactile training to be able to at least read like grade 1 Braille. I think it's another issue of accessibility where it's hard to get a Braille reader. Like it's hard to find people who know Braille. So while this is really cool, there's people that it's not serving that it could be serving. So I think that's pretty interesting also, and just something worth opening up a discussion about. Like, what do you think? The other thing here is there is like a shame cycle about not being able to see, and I'm going to talk about this more when I do like more formal videos, I guess, if I do that. But I was a waitress, and I had these people at the restaurant where I worked who came in, and they were looking at the menu, and it's like a kind of a nicer version of an Olive Garden, essentially. And they are like, oh man, this menu is so hard to read. And because I had started working there, well, I don't know if I was the cause so much as I precipitated an event that probably would have already happened. But I was kind of like pushing for like a large print menu, Braille menu, and we got one. We had one copy. And I was like, guys, if you want to see the large print menu, if it's a little bit easier to read, I can get that for you. And they laughed. And they were like, we don't need that. Like, we're not blind. And I was like, oh, well, I'm blind and it helps me. And they laughed because they didn't believe me. They had no idea. Like, I didn't say I'm not joking, but it's just another instance of like being seen as low vision is somehow funny. And that's repeated all throughout society. Like my friend who got one of these Braille notices in the mail can't see out of one eye, and he's very functional. Like he can do so much, arguably more functional than I am, at least certainly right now. And I've got a lot of respect for the guy, so I'm definitely not trying to bash him at all, but his initial reaction was like, why did I get this? Like, this is silly. Like, I can't read this. And it's like, but why can't you? I mean, why wasn't that something that was provided to you as an option in school? Why don't we have more Braille itinerant teachers or low vision itinerant teachers? Why is there shame around large print? I have gone into so many doctors' offices and asked them for a large print copy of the intake forms. And they're always like, oh, we can't do that. Like, our printer is not going to support that. Like, bullshit. But also, people have just said, well, why don't you have someone read it to you? And I'm obviously alone. It's just me and my guide dog. Like, let me get her to do it. Yeah, because they train them to do that. Like, do you want me to have some random stranger talk to me about my mental history? Do I even want an assistant at a front desk to do that quietly? Like, doesn't my privacy and independence matter? I just think that's super interesting. And the only place that has ever acquiesced to getting me an alternative format in a doctor's office was Planned Parenthood. Thank you, guys. Like, salute. But yeah, just another interesting topic that I'll expand on later. I'm just excited to kind of talk about these things, and I'm a fiery person. I have opinions, so, feel free to snap back. Whatever.